Let's give you our special feature tonight. For many Kenyans, the American dream represents the ideal life, an irresistible and enticing adventure that makes them leave their homeland and journey across the seas to settle in the land of opportunity. Yet, seeking the visa by itself can become a maze-like ordeal for many, a tedious process marked with challenges and lengthy waiting that could span into months. Behind the bureaucratic race, however, is a clandestine network where desperation drives individuals towards illicit means. We have this feature by Ode Francis, and on this episode of KTN, he investigates a 9-month undercover journey exposing a shadowy world of ambition, corruption, and the lengths some will go to secure the coveted visa. Let's take a look.
The U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, one of the country's most secure locations, is perpetually thronged by hopeful applicants eagerly seeking visas. But don't be cheated by the aura of order and calmness. Right from the gate, you go through several checks before you face the interviewers. Every day, crowds flock to this consulate, yet only a handful of applicants successfully navigate the process, each parting with approximately 20 to 30,000 shillings. For some, this means depleting their entire life savings. Friday, the 9th of June 2023 was a normal day at the embassy, but a day that would also shine the spotlight to a sinister racket that has been going on for a long time. On this day, 15 Kenyan nationals walk into the embassy, disguised as government delegates, aiming to attend the UN high-level political forum in the New York. Unknowingly, a trap has been set up.
Kenyans are struggling to get visas to the United States. And the key among this is that the process is tiresome. But now what shocked me is how some people are able to get it so easily.
KTN Investigates is collaborating with a whistleblower to bring the story to life. The whistleblower has asked us to hide his identity for security reasons. The UN High-Level Political Forum HLPF in the New York had been slated for 10th to 19th January of 2023. The whistleblower tirelessly tracked the ongoing scam and progressively shared details with the security personnel at the visa section through email, kenyafraudcrime@state.gov, leading to the arrest of the perpetrators.
When she was talking about people working to help her get the visa, and I asked her how. And she told me that money has been paid. Money is paid direct from the United States to some organizations here in Kenya. And these organizations have got a good network with the government ministries, especially the Ministry of Sports and Foreign Affairs, where once the money gets to this organization, it is distributed amongst these entities. And then they have characters at the embassy who now manages the process inside there.
The lady being referred to in the foregoing soundbite is Monica Mumbinjenga. And this marks the beginning of the game.
So she told me that, well, people are paying to the tune of 4 million. And this money is, once it is paid, you are assured of getting the visa because now you are considered as a government official.
This investigation delves into the complex web of collusion implicating high government officials. Through leaked document, we trace the involvement of DesNet, an organization that has infiltrated the government ministries. A document in our possession dated March 11, 2023, addressed to the Consular Section, U.S. Embassy in Kenya, confirms the 23rd Annual Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, Youth Forum was slated to take place over 3 days at the UN headquarters in New York. The forum will be under the aegis of the 2023 High-Level Political Forum, and Monica Mumbinjenga is identified as an official from DESNET organization, a nominee by the State Department Youth Ministry to be part of the Kenya delegation participating. Our whistleblower at this point started following closely how normal Kenyans would be facilitated for visas as high-level delegates to the New York. The delegates had applied for the visa and the records were out that they were supposed to go for visa at the embassy at a specific time. At this point, the script would get murkier. Just like any other visa interviews, they were taken through the tips on how to answer visa questions. The individuals were furnished with visa interviews tips beforehand, as seen in this document. The document breaking down entire process from the beginning to the end. Our investigation pointed us to an organization named DESNET, which is a briefcase organization that claims to be having an office around Lavington, which we later realized it was not its official location. Their con operations take place in high-end venues like KICC and some government offices, the Treasury, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Sports.
There we have people coming from different departments. And of course, we had people coming from the Riada House. The people are now organizing the actual, those ones are concerned with the issues of youth going for training, going for sports, and arts-related issues, yeah?
Now notice this section. The applicants were coached that when prompted about their host in the New York, they would state that it would be either Ambassador Martin Kimani, Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations, or Lachezara Stovia, Assistant Secretary General for ECOSOC. Armed with the necessary documents, KTN Investigates set out to verify if indeed it was true that important government ministries were being used to facilitate unauthorized individuals to fly to the United States of America. We secured conversation between the U.S. Embassy in charge with the embassy security and the whistleblower. The group was going for the high-level New York forum, not knowing that they were on the radar. This list was the list of members who had corrupted their way to getting visas at the embassy. At this moment, the masterminds were making phone calls to their senior people in the government in order to assure them that they had communicated with the people at the embassy that everything was in order. With this information, we realized that one of the suspects was missing when the arrests were made at the embassy and suspects booked at Gigiri police station. This missing person is Monica Mumbinjenga, who on the fateful day of the visa interview did not make it to the embassy. We traced her to this location in Dindigwa, Juja. At this executive salon, we disguised ourselves first as customers who needed service and that we had been referred to her by a friend who she plaited her hair. Let's meet Monica Mumbi, a delegate from DESNET. We used a lady to pose as a client so as to easily access Monica and verify our findings. And this was the icebreaker. A letter dated 15th May 2023 and addressed to the Principal Secretary, State Department for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Sing'oei. It formally requests visa facilitation and forum accreditation, leveraging on the DESNET brand. 10 individuals are introduced as delegates. The shocking letter is allegedly written and signed by Sports Cabinet Secretary Honorable Ababu Namwamba, complete with a letterhead from the Ministry of Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports, Office of the Cabinet Secretary specifically affiliated with the Talanta Hela brand. But let's spin things a little back. On 6th March 2023, Ismail Maalim Made, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports State Department for Youth Affairs, had come up with this letter showing how the final list would be arrived at. On 15th March 2023, 9 days later, a list of 11 officials is arrived at, and they become the inaugural authentic members, identified, who then were expected to be at Kencom, 3rd floor, 17th of March 2023, where they would get briefings on how to write a country's position paper. To get Monica's attention, we first ascertain if indeed she had ever been employed anywhere since this document presented her as the mentorship and training manager at Desnet organization.
Who make of employment?
Employment reference?
Yeah.
Hapana.
Hujawahi? Tangu maliza form 4?
Hii kazi kutoka 94 sijaia.
Hujaifanya kazi nyingine, ni beauty tu.
Mumbi decides to give us a background of the whole syndicate.
I have a brother. Alienda 1994.
Alienda US.
Alienda kama student na hakuenda shule hata siku hata moja. That one mistake. Pesa zenye zilipatikana ni zake za kutravel, aenda akajitetea huko mbele. Kuna mtu aliambia brother yangu, give me 2 million. Your sister atakuja huko very good sana.
Wewe sasa.
Deposit 1 million, kamtafutia makaratasi na jana na government, watu wa government 1 2 3. Brother akakubali, akamtumia 1 million. Nikaenda niita naenda. Tena ya kwanza akaambia brother yangu, uzuri yake alikuwa ameambia brother yangu ataenda, hakuna kwenda interview. Itaenda kama government official. Unajua government official kuna kwenda interview, wanaendanga the other side.
Because government officials don't even inquire whether the person is a government official, as long as the list is presented at the embassy that these are government officials. Yeah.
Back to Monica at the executive salon at Dindigwa in Kiambu County. She starts by exposing the green card process as per her experience.
Kuna watu wanajaziana na huko juu, unalipa pesa.
What?
Na wataka hizo. You know people that doesn't tell you the truth today how they do.
Yeah.
Anakwambia jaribu. But green card watu wenye wanapitanga, kuna mmoja wawili watapita, lakini wengi wanaprehengo na watu wenye wako ama mtu anajua penye kinaendelea. Utaendelea kwa kawaida.
At this moment, Mumbi decides to open up on her ordeal with the smugglers and the day of visa interviews.
Na Friday ni kwa semekana ni sisi pekee yetu tunaenda. Hiyo Friday.
The 13 of you.
The 13 of us. Na tunaenda akatuita twende for the training na kwenye tutaenda tuulize. Basi nikamwambia
Blend training what?
Walikuwa wanatuita kwa sababu tunaenda kwa hoteli, wanatuambia hizi ndio wanatupatia document. Unasaidiwa na mtu. Na huyo mtu anakwambia venye utafanya kutoka na mfumo. Anaipush, hata wengine wanaidipianga. Nasikia mtu amelipia 2 million.
2 million?
Yes. Ili win. Anakulipia juu anajua ukipata uende huko hiyo 2 million unaweza rudisha within months.
Mumbi confirms the number of those who had already paid for the visa and delegation status.
So alikwambia utaenda kama government official?
Kama la kwanza hakuna kwanza anani kwenda the first time tulienda sasa akitambia tunaenda kwa akaniambia akajificha kwa ya dashi.
Mwende?
Wakatuambia tuende kuonana tena tuende na passport. Wanaenda kupeleka kazi yako. Passport. Tunaambia tunaenda mahali. So zona dhazi tunaenda mahali.
Mnaenda wapi?
Tunaenda US mahali.
Sasa hii ni Thursday.
Na Thursday tunaenda kwa visa. Tumeambiwa unfortunately itawezekana tutaenda Monday. Na Monday tutapata visa na tutaenda the same day.
But before Mumbi traveled to join her other victims at the US Embassy in Kenya.
Lakini hapo ilikuwa serious, sauti ikapotea. So on that day nilikuwa naongea na sikuwa na sauti mpaka sasa hiyo jioni tulienda. Kuna baridi, nilikuwa natetemeka, nasikia mpaka nini imepanda temperature. Nilikuwa na sauti, sio kama ilikuwa. So Friday morning nikasikia hata kuamka siwezi. Mimi nikatext nikamwambia even if I want to go to Rwanda to pick her result. Ingine that walienda. Mimi peke yangu sio. Do you know our team wote walienda? Kumbe walikuwa watu walikuwa wameshamwambia walikuwa wamemzikwa. Do you know walienda wakashikwa wote?
Kwa watu walikuwa wameshikiwa ndani ya American Embassy ndani ama nje kwa gate. Waliingiaje ndani? Tuko na appointment inatokaje kama majina zenu ziko? Lakini nilikuwa umetubukia. Mimi ndio
The said suspects were arrested. They were to report back on Wednesday the following week, which was on the 12th, and so they were supposed to report back with the receipts. During this process, their counterparts in the United States got the arrest information. At this time, they alerted the arrested suspects not to show any receipts of the payment, this being the payments for the process.
So, they walitoa 2 million each.
2 million each. Alafu wakashikwa wote, wakajifanya kichwa, wakaambiwa wapeleke hizo risiti, wakaenda bila risiti, wakashikwa, wakashukuliwa fingerprint na wakatolewa na bail.
Ilikuwa walishikwa lini? Kumbe ndio kitajuzi.
Ndio, mimi ungenipata hapa, ungepata
ungekuwa aenda Marekani au Australia.
To confirm the arrest of these victims, we visited the Gigiri police station but received a cold shoulder upon inquiring if the suspects had been booked in this police station. We later established that according to the details from the Kenya National Police Service online occurrence book OB number 24/09/06/2023 entered at 20 hours by the US Embassy-based DCI officers at the Gigiri police station, and in the presence of the officers on duty, the records indicate a different case altogether. To our surprise, the same offenders were later booked as complainants who had gone to the embassy to report the masterminds of the scam, but at the same time had their passports detained until June 14th of 2023, when they were to report back with payment receipts, as some of them eventually did.
Walishika wakapata BPSI, wamewagozea huko, wakachukua wakapelekwa nini, wakapelekwa Gigiri police station. Walibaniwa kwa hata walikuwa na wamebaniwa by the way, walibaniwa hawezi travel, wamebaniwa hawezi travel. Another thing, walibaniwa, walienda wakaambiwa ukikubali kuwa witness, useme what happened, the process zenye ilienda, utachukuliwa fingerprint. Ukikataa unachukuliwa fingerprint. Kwa wakaambiwa ukiwa umepatiwa huu kuja na receipt. Na alikuwa amekula more than 15 million.
KTN News has established that our whistleblower, after the arrest of the suspects by itself, has put his life at risk. He has been receiving threats on his mobile phone from unknown people. He has been physically trailed at night to his residential area by people in a black saloon car that had no number plate. On several occasions, our whistleblower fled to the neighboring country for fear of his life. According to him, reporting the threats to the nearby police station would only expose him.
Well, I received the first threat that I'm playing with fire because these people are clients of certain entities. And when I received the threats that these people are looking for me, especially after the arrest, they started looking for me, and that this network is so wide, I cannot stop it. Yeah, so even as we talk now, I don't sleep in my house.
In our pursuit to verify the existence of Desnet, a purported business entity and organization, in our document the organization is located at Lavington along Chalby Drive, house number 53. We embarked on a site visit.
Head north toward Naushit Murali Drive, then turn left onto Naushit Murali Drive. Diplomatic executive services may be closed. Your destination is on the right.
The location was meticulously pinpointed using Google Maps. Upon our arrival at the designated premises, we encountered an initial impediment. Access to the premise was denied at the gate. Swift action ensued, and calls were placed to ascertain our legitimacy.
Rafael. So mimi naitwa Francis na niko na mwenzangu
naitwa Danish.
Tuko tumekuja kutembelea Desnet. Sorry?
Nini? Ni organization. Address yao inasema 53
Chalby Drive.
Unajua Desnet? Ofisi. Kampuni. Hakuna mahali pengine. Desnet. Kuna wageni hapo wanasema wanaambiwa kuja Chalby Drive Desnet.
After a brief interlude, an enigmatic figure arrived on the scene. This individual, later identified as Ronnie, introduced himself as the proprietor of the establishment. His appearance was unexpected, yet crucial to our inquiry. Ronnie's presence allowed us entry, and we proceeded to engage in a thorough interrogation.
So we were looking for Desnet.
Who's Desnet?
Diplomatic services. It's pointing at us here. So tumekuja kuuliza. We wanted to see someone called Samuel.
Samuel?
Onyango.
A.K.A. Freeman.
Freeman.
Namjua ni yangu.
Oh, ni bro.
Ni brother. Ni best yangu.
Oh.
So labda ndio maana.
So labda nika
Kitambo alikuwa operate from here.
Na cooperate kwa sasa. Wewe unasunguja kunitembelea? Sunguja kunitembelea leo? Tuna kesho kuja kunitembelea. Tuna kesho kuja.
Then the exact location ni wapi?
What do you mean?
As in location ya office ya Desnet.
Haina kuna office kama ni hapa ndio unafikiria Desnet. So kama ni Freeman sawa, I know it. But it's not Desnet.
The outcome of our conversation with Ronnie would later reveal that Desnet, despite its purported existence, lacks a tangible physical manifestation. Our investigation corroborates the suspicion that Desnet operates as a mere briefcase entity, existing primarily on paper and in the realm of legal documentation. In our operation, we went ahead to interview one of the key masterminds mentioned, Andrew Omogo, who was released on June 10, 2023, after the intervention of his boss, Mr. Samuel James Onyango, alias Freeman. When we reached out to Omogo, he threatened us against publishing this story.
So that's what I'm telling you, if you would have dared to publish this thing, the full force of status would have come on you. And then you publish the information, and the next thing you know, DCI Gigiri is being called, the embassy is being called, and you know, since I wrote direct letters to the ambassador would have been called, and the ambassador would have called the Manze, you would have had the full force. Have you ever heard of the full force of intelligence apparatus? Would you?
Nakwambia.
Yeah, that's why I told you, this wasn't a small scandal. It was big. The editor, in the name of trying to get views and likes and people to read the newspaper, puts this story on the Standard. The magnitude would have been huge. Now, because you would have had the State House coming for Standard Group, not you as a journalist.
Yeah.
State House could have come now for Standard Group.
But as he issued the threats, he found himself spilling the beans.
During my training them, the instruction I gave them as a person was that I will make sure wanafika JFK hivi. And after they are checked in by TSA, I carry them and I hand them over to the United Nations Security Agency because those the idea was to exchange those passports with their badges. So the only thing they were going to have access when in New York was the UN badges. They were not supposed to have their passports. They were not supposed to have their passports with the visas. They were not supposed to have their documentation. That was supposed to rest with me, and that was supposed to rest with the United Nations.
Ulimtumia ama ulimpea cash?
Nilipatia cash. Na alikataa, aliniambia nitumie cash. Kwa sababu anataka.
Omogo confirmed that indeed they were delegates who were to attend a high-level forum in New York on behalf of the government.
Yes, the role I was given was to verify the documentation and make sure everything is okay.
So, which means that the people who were in that list were real people?
They were, yes.
Okay.
Yes. The entire delegation, yes. The people who were there, they were not fictitious. I mean, we had the passport numbers. See, tuliokotwa pale kama real people who actually real delegation that was going to New York. So the only thing that caused this kerfuffle was that money had exchanged hands. Yes. So Ababu's office could not have written that letter. Ababu wrote that letter and the signature was his. Ababu could not have written and approved that letter were it not from the direct orders. And it was Ababu that endorsed that letter to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs took that letter to Treasury. So by the time I was writing to the ambassador, I cannot write to Ovio.
Yeah.
So by the time I was doing email to this thing had passed through all government protocols.
Omogo's sentiments affirm the threats earlier issued to our whistleblower and show that this scam is dangerous and involves very senior government officials.
This thing involves letters to Ababu. You get?
Yeah.
Those were the characters involved in this thing. To Chief of Staff Ababu Namwamba. Yeah. And most importantly, it involves my emails to Ambassador.
Omogo goes ahead to even confirm to us the tension within the high offices and ministries involved.
It's actually, I'm hearing it's one of the reasons transfers zilifanyika. One of the, leave alone even some of the junior officers when wamekuwa reshuffled buko foreign affairs was because of that. Particularly office ya nani. The office ya netwaje. The office that endorses diplomatic travels. Within there is not Lebanon multilateral huku chini, the second floor. There's an office there, 222.
And so to rubber stamp our findings, we post a question to Omogo on if indeed the smuggling syndicate was real within the Kenyan government and the US embassy.
The syndicate is real.
Yeah.
I think it's still operating.
It's still going on.
Kenya is a crime scene. And it's still real.
We got hold of the conversation between Andrew Janet having payment arrangements, and clearly we established that high-level political forum HLPF had its payment margins of $2,950.
You know me, I saw checks for DCI, copies of checks. And according to what I heard, apparently the money had exchanged hands before I was brought in.
Okay.
You know me, my capacity was consultancy and monitoring.
Okay.
Majorly. As the secretary of the organization, my capacity was consultancy and monitoring, making sure that everything is done right by the law. That was my role. So I did everything I could, training them in the best way that I could to make sure that they answered the questions properly. They did all that, verified the documents, make sure that everything was right.
Okay.
And I checked everything, physically, even from the office and all that, everything.
And how did it come that people were arrested again?
The problem was this, by the even this year, Andrew, you people, all the documentation is right. The only problem is that one of you went blabbing. One of you went blabbing that she has paid a lot of money in order to go to the US. So apparently she blabbed, and one person had and reported to office of the DCI, and so by the time we were going there, the information had spread that one of them was me, had paid.
Efforts by KTN News to reach out to the Director General Consular Section to get a detailed account of the scam, including list of those slotted for interviews on the fateful day and how the perpetrators were arrested, were futile. We wrote to the embassy's consular section, including sending emails and the registered emails through the G4S company, but got no response. In the course of our investigative reporting, we sought to engage with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but our efforts were met with silence. Persistent attempts to reach the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Singoe, resulted in a single phone call conversation where he solicited evidence from us. Ode, I'm calling you from the Standard KTN News. Yes, we are calling you in regards to a specific letter we have received. In regards to a request that was sent for facilitation of a forum in from DesNet. And
what?
From Ministry of Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports Office of the Cabinet Secretary. And it was supposed to, it was requesting you to give accreditation to a number of people who are going for a high-level forum in the New York. So we were calling you to request if we could have a word with you on the same. It is a story that we will follow.
I'm not aware of the letter, sir. Maybe could you send it to me via WhatsApp and then I can get back to you?
No problem, sir.
Thank you.
Asante. Despite providing what was requested, there has been no subsequent communication from his side up to the moment of this broadcast. A formal letter dispatched to his office remains unanswered, mirroring the lack of response we received. A similar approach was taken up with the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Ababu Namwamba, which unfortunately also resulted in an absence of engagement. A formal letter dispatched to his office remains unanswered. With these documents, we visited the Office of Youth, where Raymond Ouma heads for verification. On introducing the topic of our investigation, Ouma plays it safe by confiscating our phones.
Recording.
Yeah, but you see, you're putting your phone.
No, it's just here.
No. Just give this. So get your phones and give that lady. So because I can decide. Just take it to. If you want to talk to me, just take it. Just give.
So you had started on many forums.
Stacy, you can just put the phones on the reception. Yeah. So one.
Ouma confirms the legitimate team that was meant to travel did not travel.
This is not a letter of challenges. This is a letter nomination. This is a letter to prepare the country position. This team did not travel because of the communication that letter came from Foreign Affairs that in the short nature of the travels, they could not, because now after this, the team that came from here, one, the agreement must have been you will take care of your air. So which again, not many people could. Yes. And then if you look at the timings were very short. This was 15th of March.
And the other one is 6th.
Yes. The other one 6th of March. So by the time they went Foreign Affairs, it sent a regret that because of the short time, it did not meet the criteria for the processing. So once we do this, it is even us who do not forward. It is we forward to Foreign Affairs.
So who is Samuel? How did he come to you?
Samuel is any Kenyan who walked into the office here and said he had gotten an invite from ECOSOC. And which, again, the way I'm telling you, is not anything that we're in control of. The gentleman wanted me to write a letter to the US. I said he does not want that. I said the try I can do is we can forward to Foreign Affairs. Foreign Affairs will also do their due diligence. And if they do their due diligence, even them they have mechanisms of, but us to recommend that we have this, like even ECOSOC is coming, we are going to recommend you who are good willing. We say these are young people.
Actually, even when he came, the gentleman came even with on his tag, access to parliament. The what it's called was the tag. The same tag for parliament. Access. Yeah. And said how and still, yes, Speaker, he had even that morning that he came here, it was a office, and he had photos, which I told him again, Samuel, Speaker is a public person. There is nobody you will tell a public person, and you see that's why people say, wait up, why is this person a criminal? Criminals are very sharp. They can come here and say they want to see Raymond. They have a youth project. They'll take a photo. They just use that photo now to go con another person. And it does not mean they were doing any, because they know it's a public space.
Good.
So the only